Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to hike to Charles Bunion. We're here on the Appalachian Trail in the Great Smoky Mountains. This is a great hike because it's away from all the crowds. Just down the road is Mount LeConte, which is always packed. This is a nice alternative. It's not a big mountain summit, but we do get to hike on the Appalachian Trail, which is really cool, and we'll get some views along the way as well. I'm here with my friends Daryl and Steven from Overwatch and Rescue, and we're going to show you exactly how to do the hike. And a big thank you to Overwatch and Rescue for covering the travel expenses for this trip and making this guide possible. The hike starts at Newfound Gap, which is right off of the main thoroughfare through the park, the 441 between Gatlinburg and Cherokee. It's a big parking area. It's actually a roadside attraction, so a lot of people will be stopping here and just taking in the views and leaving again. So if you can't find a spot right away, you'll probably be able to find one soon. But this is the lowest point through the mountains. That's why it's called a gap. In the northeast, they call them notches, and out west, we call them passes. And you do need a parking pass here. I'll put a link to the parking pass website on the web version of this video. Just search for Hiking Guy, Charles Bunion. The hike starts at the end of the parking lot, the big stone monument. This is called the Rockefeller Monument, and this is where FDR dedicated and opened the park in 1940. There are a few paths here. We're going to do the main one in the middle, which is the Appalachian Trail. There are restrooms down to the right, down the little path there, but we're going to go ahead and start on this main trail here, and you'll see a trailhead sign and also the Appalachian Trail sign, which tells you only have about 1,972 miles if you want to go up to the end in Maine. Now, our hike is going to be a lot shorter than that. We're looking at about 8 miles out and back. We're going to be following the ridge up on the mountain here, and this is actually straddling the border between Tennessee and North Carolina. North Carolina on your right, Tennessee on your left as you continue here. And we have a little bit of an uphill and then a downhill to Charles Bunion, and then we just turn around and go back the way we came. Now, from the beginning, we're going to start climbing, and this is not a big mountain climb. We're basically climbing up along the ridge here. It's not too tough, pretty gradual, and there are things like stairs here to help you out. And the trail, as you can see, is very well established and easy to follow, easy to find. There are some sections that are rocky and rooty as you go up here, but nothing too crazy. And if you're ever in doubt as you climb up here and get some views through the trees, look for these white blazes. These white blazes are what mark the Appalachian Trail, and we're going to be following the white blazes for the majority of this hike. Overall, the Appalachian Trail stretches from Georgia to Maine. It's about 2,200 miles, and it takes most hikers about 6 months or so to do the entire stretch. The first real trail junction comes at about 1.7 miles. This is the Sweet Heifer Creek Trail on the right-hand side. We're going to keep going straight on the Appalachian Trail towards the Boulevard Trail, which is our next landmark, and about a mile from here. The nice thing is it's not all uphill. There are some flat sections like this where you can get a breather and cruise for a little bit. I mentioned earlier there's some rocky and rooty sections. I think overall you're going to want trail runners here. You'll want to take 2 liters of water, bring your backcountry essentials. There's not really any cellular service here, so a satellite communicator will help. And in the winter it can be really icy. I'll put a link to the mountain weather forecast on the webpage. Just go to my website, HikingGuy.com, and you can get that there. And if you want to see all the gear that I'm using now, I have a page on my website as well that's not sponsored. You can just see the things that I'm actually using. Now, this is a pretty busy trail, so you're probably not going to spot much in terms of wildlife, but I did see this hog trap over here. There are wild hogs here and all over the south, and they root up the soil and are generally a nuisance, and here's a trap to catch them. One of the interesting things is that there used to be elk here, and eventually they were hunted out of existence, but the Park Service has reintroduced them to the Smokies, so maybe you'll see some elk. I've never seen them here, but they are here. And even though we're not hitting any big mountain summits, we are passing some pretty big mountains. This is Mount Ambler on the right, just a few dozen feet above the trail, over 6,000 feet, which is a bit of a rarity on the East Coast, east of the Mississippi. About 2.6 miles, we're going to come to the Boulevard Trail. Now, there's a nice little short trail to the jump off. I'll show you that at the end, but for now, we're going to go right and continue on the Appalachian Trail. This kind of marks the high point on the stretch out. There's a little bit of climbing after this, but in general, we're going to be going downhill to Charles Bunion from here. Shortly after that junction, I want you to keep your eyes open for these signs for a shelter. Off to the right of the trail, we're going to see the Ice Water Spring Shelter. You have to walk off the trail a little bit, but this is your typical Appalachian Trail, or Appalachian Trail as they say in the South, shelter. Great views. You can even see all the way to Mount Mitchell from here in North Carolina. That's one of the, or that's the tallest points east of the Mississippi River, off in the distance there. But this is a great place to stop and just enjoy yourself, enjoy the views, take a break before this last little section down to Charlie's Bunion. Now, after the shelter, we have a bit of a descent. It's going to feel good, but remember, we have to climb back up this on the way back. We're going to go downhill for a little bit. And once we get to the bottom of the climb, the spine of the mountain that we hike on gets a lot narrower. Not narrow in the sense that you might fall off, but narrow in the sense that the views will open up. Even when there are leaves in the trees, you're going to get nice glimpses into the mountains on both sides, onto the Tennessee and the North Carolina side. The rise in front of you is called the Massa Knob. It's named after George Massa, who was a Japanese guy who emigrated to the United States in 1901, came all the way to Asheville, which is pretty rare. You didn't see a lot of Japanese people here, I think, then, but took pictures of these Smokies and is known as the Ansel Adams of the East. They talk about him in the Ken Burns documentary in the national parks, which I also highly recommend. I'll put a link to that underneath this video as well. This stretch here is one of the only stretches that's tree-free, especially in the summer, so give yourself time to enjoy the views as you hike along here. We're almost at Charlie's Bunion at this point. There's one little last stretch of climb before we get to the Bunion. Once we do this little climb, you're going to see a sign off to the left for Charlie's Bunion. Some of the maps don't match up exactly with the GPS position, but this is what the park is telling you, Charlie's Bunion right here. You also see a warning that climbing in the rocks is hazardous. You have to just, hike with care here. There are some little scrambles, and obviously if it's snowy and icy, you're not going to want to do this. This last little stretch is one of my favorites here. Look at all the colors of the mosses and lichens on the rock. But you're going to get some nice views as we do this final approach to Charlie's Bunion. And when you see this big slab of rock right here, this is the actual Charlie's Bunion. You can see there's a little bit of a scramble up to the top here, but it's nothing too crazy. But if it was icy, it could be a little treacherous. But once you're up here, enjoy the views. You're going to be looking to the west from here, so you'll be able to see Gatlinburg down in the distance, kind of to the west, northwest-ish. But the views are beautiful, and this is Charlie's Bunion. Now, this rock used to be called Fodder Stack. It was renamed Charlie's Bunion, I think, as a bit of a goof by a guy named Kephart. Kephart was instrumental in making this all a national park, but he was at the spot with his friend Charlie Connor, a mountain guide. Charlie peeled his boot off and had a big bunion or a blister, and Kephart said, let's submit a new name to the government, call this Charlie's Bunion, and see if they take it. And they did, and now it's called Charlie's Bunion. Now, soak in the views at Charlie's Bunion, and from here you basically just head back the way you came, going back uphill up to the shelter. Now, if you want to do a optional side trip, it adds about a mile on. When you get to the Boulevard Trail junction, make the right-hand turn instead of heading down the Appalachian Trail. Make the right towards the jump-off trail. But once you make this turn, look for the side trail off to the right here. We're going to take this a short way up to the jump off. Now, this trail is definitely not as big as the Appalachian Trail, a little more primitive, but there is a trail. So if you don't find yourself on a trail, you're in the wrong place. When you get to the high point here, after a little steep climb, we're going to be on Mount Kephart. This is Mount Kephart, named after Horace Kephart that I mentioned earlier, one of the guys instrumental in making this all a national park. And then once we're on the top of Mount Kephart, we have a little bit of a kind of a cruisy downhill down towards the jump off, which is the viewpoint. Now as we continue, there's not a sign or anything for the jump off. The trail gets narrower. You can see it's a little dramatic here as we get close to the end. And once you get to the end, the trail sort of fizzles out, and off to the right, you're going to get these postcard perfect views down to Charlie's Bunion and up into the rest of the Smoky Mountains here. So that's the hike, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment underneath the video. I'll do my best to answer it. Big thank you to Overwatch and Rescue, who made this video possible, and also to supporters like you. I could not do it without you, so thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want to do more hikes in the Smokies here, I have more on my website. And if you want to save these directions, just go to my website and you can print out the directions or save them to your phone, or even download the GPX file so that you can navigate with your phone too. All right, guys, I'll see you out on the trails. Thank you for watching. Bye.